This lesson is over graphing linear equations using the slope-intercept form. Let's talk about slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is a form of the linear equation written as y equals mx plus b, where m represents the slope of the line or how it changes from point to point. You may have also heard this described as rise over run, which means how much the graph moves up and down versus how much the graph moves left to right as you move from point to point. The b represents the y-intercept. A y-intercept is a point on a graph where it crosses the y-axis, so it has the form 0, b when we write it as an ordered pair. When we get ready to graph these equations in this form, the slope-intercept form, the b is going to tell us how to begin our graph. It will be the first point that we plot on our graph. Then from there, the m, or the slope, helps to tell us how to move from point to point. Let's try an example. Example 1. Identify the slope and y-intercept, then graph. For part A, we are given y equals 2x minus 3. Notice we are given space to identify the slope and y-intercept, and then we will graph our information. Just as a reminder, the slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where the m equals slope and b equals y-intercept. So when we look at our equation, y equals 2x minus 3, notice that the 2 is next to the x. It's in the same place as the m in the y equals mx plus b. So 2 must be our slope. Then from there, notice we have a minus 3, and that is in the same place as the b in the y equals mx plus b format, so it must be our y-intercept. However, remember, y-intercept represents a point, so we need to write it as an ordered pair. So instead of just saying the y-intercept is negative 3, we would say the y-intercept is at the point 0, negative 3. Now that we've identified the slope and y-intercept, we're ready to graph this information on the coordinate plane. Remember, the y-intercept or the b value tells us where to begin our graph. So the first point we're going to plot is 0, negative 3. Then from there, remember, our slope, or our m, tells us how to move from point to point. So let's take a look at that slope for a second. Notice that the slope is the value 2. Remember when we talked about slope on the previous slide, we discussed how sometimes it's called rise over run. Normally there's 2 values to help us know how to move up and down and how to move left and right. So instead of just looking at the number 2, let's rewrite that as a fraction so that we know how to move both directions. Remember that when we have a whole number, we can rewrite that as something over 1. So 2 would become 2 over 1. Since 2 and 1 are both positive numbers, this tells us that we will go up 2 and to the right 1. Up is the positive direction for the y-axis, and right is the positive direction for the x-axis. So we will move up and right. So going back to our graph, when we start at the point 0, negative 3, what we're going to do is go up 2 and right 1. I'm going to denote that with some arrows. So we're going to go up 2 and right 1, and then we will place a new point. We will continue this movement throughout the entire line. So again, we will go up 2 and right 1. We could continue this process and cover the entire coordinate plane if we wanted to. But once we get to 3 points, we kind of have an idea of what's going to happen. So I'm going to stop here, and now that I have my points, I'm going to connect them with a line and extend it in each direction. Now that I have my graph, are we done? Not quite. Don't forget to label your x and y axis to complete the graph. Example 1b. Again, we are asked to identify the slope and y-intercept and graph the equation. Our new equation this time is y equals negative 2 over 3, or negative 2/3 x, plus 3. As a reminder, here's our slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, where m equals slope and b equals the y-intercept. Looking at this equation, notice that the number attached to the x is negative 2/3, which is in the place of m, so our slope is negative 2/3, or negative 2/3. At the end of our equation, we have plus 3, which is in the place of the b in the y equals mx plus b format. So plus 3 or positive 3 must be our y-intercept. Again, a y-intercept is a point, so we need to write it as an ordered pair, which is 0, 3. Now we're ready to graph this information. Remember, our y-intercept or our b value tells us where to begin or start the graph, so my first point is going to be 0, 3. Then from here, the slope or the m value tells me how to move from point to point. So let's go back to that slope and see if we can figure out how to move. Notice we have negative 2/3. Remember, when we have a negative number, especially with a fraction, we can assign that negative either to the numerator or to the denominator, but not both. So if we take that negative and we move it up to the top, notice that we would have negative 2/3. This is important because this will tell us how to move from point to point. When we have the negative in the numerator, this means that we will go down 2 and to the right 3, because down is the negative direction for the y-axis. If we go back to our graph and apply this movement of going down 2 and right 3, let's see what happens. Again, I'm going to use arrows to show that I'm going down 2 and to the right 3. So I'm going to start at my beginning point, go down 2, and then count right 1, 2, 3, and then plot a new point. Now, what if instead of assigning the negative to the numerator, we decided to assign the negative to the denominator? Will it make a difference? Let's see what happens. So if I take the negative of the negative 2/3 and I assign it to the denominator, this becomes positive 2 over negative 3. This means that the positive 2 tells me I'm going to go up 2, and the negative 3 tells me I'm going to go to the left 3. So going back to our graph, and we're actually going to go back to that original beginning point of 0, 3. Let's see what happens when we go up 2 and left 3 this time. So we're going to go up 2 and left 3 and plot a new point. Notice that no matter which direction you decided to go, whether you put the negative with the numerator or the negative with the denominator, these points will all form a continuous line. Now that we have our 3 points and we've graphed our line through those 3 points and extended it in each direction, is there anything else we need to do? You got it. Make sure you label that x and y axis. Example 1c, we are given y equals 1/2 x minus 1. This is your try it problem. Pause the video now to identify the slope, y-intercept, and draw your graph, and then press play when you're ready to continue. Okay, hopefully you were able to identify the slope as 1/2 and the y-intercept as -1, which when written as an ordered pair would give us 0, -1. Then when we go to our graph, remember we begin with the y-intercept of 0, -1. And then our slope with 1/2 tells us we're going to go up 1 and to the right 2 to make each new point. So going back to our graph, we go up 1, right 2, and we plot a new point, and then we continue that process until we have at least 3 points on our graph. We connect those 3 dots in order to make our line, and hopefully your graph looks like mine. Don't forget to label that x and y axis. Great job.